Let's hit it off. We have a second panel here with the great panelists. So first, maybe you will introduce yourself to the crowd here. Ryan?
Sure. My name is Ryan Heffernan. I'm with the Cloud and Enterprise Security team, specifically the customer experience team within that. Been at Microsoft for around 12 years now. Most of that time has been spent on our internal security team, doing things like walking products through our security development lifecycle and helping with operational security internally. And also, before that, I did all sorts of operations management stuff, systems administration, that sort of thing.
Awesome. I'm Kamil. Basically, I do stuff related to cloud, that's obvious. But I'm trying to point people that there's something important, like security. And from my point of view, of course, experience, that's super important. So combining those two and hybrid stuff, that's the main focus of the things which I'm doing today.
And I'm Emil Wasilewski. I'm a Microsoft Azure MVP. Working as a cloud architect, of course, as all of us probably here. Mostly focused on infrastructure stuff and designing the best solution from the, of course, also from the security perspective. And I think I'm not fit into the dress code here.
That's fine.
Oof.
Okay, so I'm still Tomasz and I'm still asking questions here. Okay, so let's start with something hard. Because our topic is pure cloud not and cloud security, and that's probably the most controversial topic here. So maybe Ryan, tell us, what is your most hidden fear related to the cloud security? What you are afraid of?
That's a good question. Related to cloud or?
To the cloud. Let's keep it to the cloud. We have other fears, I know, everybody has one.
I would say that the biggest fear I have as far as cloud is that people won't use the security functionality that is in it. So I've heard people endorse how the cloud can make you more secure, and I think that's true. But then people onboard onto the cloud and then think, okay, I must be more secure somehow. And the truth is, the way the cloud can make you more secure is that through the economies of scale you get from it, you can get all this functionality that is not realistic with your existing budget on-prem. But you have to then, go search out that functionality, take it on, use the products that allow that, use the features. You still have to put thought into security. You can't just forget it.
Kamil, do you have any fears around the cloud and security?
One of my fears is the perspective that a few years ago we were able to simply touch the service. And when we were touching the service and the logs, we were actually aware how it's supposed to work, where it's supposed to be located. And today, we are saying, the stuff is working, and you don't have to care about where it's located. The biggest problem today is simply turn it on, and you have to be aware of what to turn on and when. That's the thing. So today, the biggest problem is simply be aware of the functionalities, because they are still there, and they are growing quite quickly and heavily, increasing security functionalities. That's the biggest fear. Just to not be aware and keeping up with it.
So if I get it right, it's that we are not educating ourselves quickly enough to keep up with the changes, but we are basically deploying the stuff.
True. And the things are growing quite quickly, so we cannot catch up with everything. That's why we are focusing on few technologies. And keeping up with things is the worst thing.
Okay, I heard it in the Ryan's answer, but maybe Emil will add to that. Do you think that the security operation model across on-premises is same as in the cloud, even infrastructure, or is it different?
I can say that it's different, and in the cloud it's probably easier to achieve the highest security level, because as Kamil said and Ryan, we have a lot of tools and services already there. Just use it. We need to learn them and implement it. And in the on-premises stuff, we need the process to buy, for example, the new solutions to protect our data, protect our servers, and so on, took a lot of time. In a cloud, as I said, just click and use, or pay, of course.
Okay, Kamil?
I would add one thing to the things which actually Emil did say. One of the biggest problems which we had on premises basically, was the idea that when we were discussing the functionality rates, let's say without names, but basically functionality A, which is supposed to be more secure, and the biggest problem which I had was to go to my boss and say, hey, this costs X. And I wasn't actually, I was prepared for the answer. Like, I wasn't aware that he or she will say yes or no. Today, I'm simply saying, hey guys, like for security, and if I will compare Azure Information Protection, like it's costing 1 beer per month, like drink less, be more secure.
That might be a hard choice, especially right now after hours of the conference. So.
After hours, yeah.
Yes. Okay, I had a question just before the panel, and actually I said we will answer this here. So a lot of people are actually skeptic about security, that is the cloud secure, and then if you have a one sentence and maximum 1 minute to convince somebody that it is not, so what would you tell?
Well, if I'm still having the mic, I would simply say try to spend as much as the provider is spending on the security in your company. But don't work all the time. It doesn't work.
So basically you cannot build what you are getting as a service.
Yeah.
Ryan?
So I would say, I had just been presenting on Azure Security Center. If you can do across the board application whitelisting, automated security event investigation, just-in-time admin access, all these things that it makes easy for you. If you already have that perfectly functional in your environment right now, then maybe you have the case that the cloud is more secure. But I've never met anyone who has all that stuff. It's too hard to do on premise.
So Ryan, please keep the mic, because knowing my experience, people don't know what Azure Security Center is. So I was trying to avoid the product, but you have 2 minutes to pitch the Azure Security Center.
Okay, so it's very simple. If you're going to use Azure, you need to use Azure Security Center. The only question is how to use it. You go into the main Azure menu and you just click on Security Center, and it's right there, and it'll do all the things you need, and you're gonna try it for 60 days for free. So just try it and see if it catches a bunch of issues in your environment already. Alerts you to an intrusion you didn't know about, alerts you to a bunch of problems you didn't know about. If it catches nothing, fine, maybe don't use it, but you're going to see a whole bunch of stuff, and it's going to make it really easy for you, so just give it a try.
So my favorite feature of Azure Security Center is actually just-in-time ports opening. So you can open the port just when you need it and don't expose it. And actually you can have approval on that, which is pretty cool. Okay, looking at my list, there is a lot of misconceptions around cloud security. And actually that was also in this question that if I put the data in a cloud, can Microsoft read my data? So if from your experience, what is the biggest misconception around cloud and security, and how you will address that? Kamil, Emil?
I think one most important or first thinking about Azure or cloud at all is that the data, the stuff, virtual machines, application, they are somewhere there. We can touch it, we can see it, and the people from the IT, local IT, old legacy IT, name it, they are fear about that they need to give something from their local infrastructure to someone there, and they can't explain where the data is. So, yeah, right now we have all documentation where the data centers are located, how the security process looks like, and so on and so on. But this is the same like previous panel. There is a lack of knowledge about how the things work. And this is normal for people that if they don't know how something works, they scared and fear of that.
Kamil, so how would you address something like this? Like, I'm afraid that my data will be read by someone.
Well, One of my examples, which I'm trying to use sometimes, is the idea that we do have a person responsible for finance in companies. So the person actually knows everything about the company. This person could be even an IT administrator. It has access to everything, backups and so on. So locally, if you don't have a trusted person actually has access to some things. But in the case of IT people, we can elevate ourselves to make more good things and bad things. It depends on the scenario. So if there will be a, let's say, push from the external environment to that particular person, saying like, do that or that, you have to choose, people will betray the companies. Like, there's always a choice. But it depends on the person, will you do it positively or negatively. One thing additionally, which I could add, is simply the idea that people always tend to have logs. And we always forced our systems to generate logs locally and so on and so on. But if I'm going back to my memory, maybe I was the weakest one, I wasn't having so much time to even read the logs. I was simply reacting proactively sometimes, but most of the time reactively, so after the fact. Today, if I will combine the Azure functionalities, Azure Analytics and security functionalities, well, from most of the time, 99 days was the default time frame for people when they were attacked. Today, if I will use, for example, Windows Defender, which is a part of security functionalities, I can leverage that attack in a minute or two. Like, there's additionally functionalities which are allowing you to read the logs, finally read the logs.
So it's again the scale of operation and the knowledge and the insight which the providers
can be
like
automated,
Microsoft are
finally.
getting, which we cannot build again on a scale of simple environment.
Yeah.
Ryan, I can imagine that you are facing these questions many times.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I would add a few things to that. One is, if Microsoft loses the trust of its customers, it's out of the cloud business. So Microsoft has huge incentive to not violate that trust, first of all. And then the other thing is that with the cloud, with everything at scale and everything automated, there's all sorts of logging. You know, in a traditional small-scale on-premise situation, there's often one person who has all the power to abuse everything, and they control all the logging so they can cover up any audit trail. When you have massive automated logging and everything, it's harder for one person to abuse anything. And then I would say the third thing is there's now increasingly a lot of functionality to bring your own key. So if you really don't trust us, and I can understand how people in a security mindset want to minimize trust, look at some of the bring your own key features and encrypt it, and then we can't even access it, you know, even if we tried.
Yeah, that's true, but not a lot of people knows about it, yeah, that you can actually do it. Personally, I don't know anyone who did it, but I know there is a possibility for that. Okay, so let's get a bit technical. Everybody expects that, actually. One feature or one product from Azure, and you are not allowed to say Security Center, but you have to answer the question. Which you think people should know, which affects security either of platform or infrastructure?
So one thing I would look at is Azure Advanced Threat Protection, Azure ATP, which is the cloud version of Advanced Threat Analytics. A lot of people, that just came out, a lot of people aren't aware of it. It can do some really amazing things, so take a look at that.
Kamil?
I would add my favorite, so Windows Defender. It does really, without bad words, awesome things. Let's make it like that. And if you will have a chance tomorrow to visit my session as Bączyk, yeah, keep it.
That's advertisement.
Well, it's a good session, so.
It's allowed.
Yeah. It's a good session, just saying. Basically,
Code before the session.
Windows Defender, awesome. It's really awesome and it's really rocks.
And I will not say anything about service, but I will say about functionality, which is available in the Azure Resource Manager. It's a role-based access control. At the beginning, it's a nightmare to configure that and learn that, the possibilities. But the possibilities are huge to get the granularity of access to the data and applications. The possibility to elevate the access for development or separate the access to the production environments, development environments, and so on. Administrators of databases, administrators for virtual machines. It's very powerful functionality and worth to spend some time to learn it.
Okay, so I will just add because I have to. Ryan, you don't know it, but I'm a great fan of everything which is AD. So because that's based on Azure AD, and actually that's a very cool feature. If I can add, and I just hope that it will pop up, my favorite feature is like Key Vault, which is, I think, greatly not being used. I don't know why, but well, that's just something which is really affecting how we are storing the data in application development.
And I will talk about a little bit Key Vault tomorrow.
Another advertisement.
My tomorrow theater session about how to use Key Vault in deployments to Azure. But I'm using it. It's really cool.
Yeah, there is a lot of people using it. I was just surprised that developers don't know about it, and the entire airbag security model, which you've mentioned, which is powering it. Yeah? So you can be very flexible here. Okay, guys, based on your experience, we kind of touched this already, but how do you think that on-premises infrastructure compares to infrastructure deployed on Azure in terms of security? So I will not pull the names, but basically, how do you think people who are staying completely on-premises stacks their security infrastructure against the cloud? Kamil, Ryan?
Sure, I'll take this. Okay, so I would argue that done properly, cloud security is far superior to on-premise security. And I know the idea is that when everything is on-premise, you control the stack end-to-end, so therefore you can have better security. I have never seen that. Like, I worked in IT operations and production system administration and all that for years before I got into security. Anyone who's done that kind of work for years and years knows that almost everywhere it's a complete disaster and a mess because it's so hard, which is why a lot of this is being automated with DevOps and why a lot of this is moving to the cloud. It is a really hard job to keep up on an environment when you're responsible for every tiny little thing about it. It's just too much work. So although yes, you theoretically have that control in order to change anything, everybody's working with limited resources. And the cloud effectively is a tool to give you more resources to say, I'm going to take this piece of the problem that I don't have time to go solve it, and then I can focus on something else that's more important.
Kamil, I know that you're doing a lot of work with the customers and security, so probably some experience here.
Well, I would simply say the same, because today the biggest problem is quite quickly scaling up to have a functionality or resolve a problem. So locally, when people were working, they had a lot of, let's say, bad habits. I do have them too. So we already know the best practices, and everyone says them, like Thomas always and so on. But when you are working day by day on some kind of a project, we do tend to use habits. So if I'm sometimes reviewing even my code or configurations or so on, I'm saving them temporarily on the desktop for a while, and that while sometimes takes a week or something. So I shouldn't say it publicly because I'm supposed to be a security expert, but still it happens. I'm trying to control it. So today in the cloud it's easier to say, hey, Key Vault, protect my passwords and try to not use passwords anymore. That's supposed to be like that. But yeah, habits and best practices, that's the answer for it.
Okay, we can run a short poll here. How many of you are encrypting data on premises? Actually? Okay. They are from the same company, so that makes two. Yeah. But actually I think that the difference is by the easy of using it. Yeah, I can just click and encrypt database on SQL instead of, well, you can do the same on premises, but there is a lot of dependencies on that. Yeah?
Azure Information Protection, just click it and turn it on. It does work,
yes,
just like that.
Easy of taking those habits. Actually, I think that you both touched one point, which is, even that we have all this technology, we are still failing on the basics, probably. And even if we are moving infrastructure to the cloud, so we are still failing on the basics. I don't know, Emil, how do you think about it? So when we are moving the servers to the cloud, and then we have all this infrastructure, do we still are bringing all those bad habits with us, like keeping open admin accounts with the bad passwords, whatever? What is your experience? I'm not asking about your deployments. We know it's perfect.
It's a good question, and I also want to say about habits. We have habits. The question is, how we running the services on Windows Server. We are using the login and password by administrator user, and the times when administrator change the password, how many services failing in the company. And at the beginning, when everyone say, let's go to the cloud, hooray, and deploy virtual machines and so on and so on. And after that, write the password to the virtual machine on the Excel spreadsheet, on the Google Drive or Dropbox or something like that. Yeah. We still have the plain text passwords. Yeah, they don't using the key vault to store the password to the virtual machines. That's what Michael said about on his session about managed service identity. The people using user and password inside the code still, not using the functionalities.
Yeah, I saw it too many times, even right now, and even like in the last couple of months. Okay, maybe you guys have some questions to them. They are pretty expensive consultants, so it actually comes free. Questions might be in Polish, I will do translation. I have some prepared, but I would prefer, because they are grilled by me. Okay, I will start with something easy. Same what was on the previous panel. One service or feature which you think people who are not working with cloud at all needs to get to know when they are starting, somehow related to security. We can start with Emil or Ryan, that's whoever is ready.
So a good place to start is another product I've done some work with is Cloud App Security. So basically that does a lot of fantastic discovery around shadow IT, which is this notion of all of your IT infrastructure that you don't know exists. And if you think you're the exception to that rule and you don't have any, that's just not true. You turn this thing on and all these devices that are unmanaged, all these SaaS applications that people are using without your knowledge all of a sudden light up and you see what's happening there. So that's a good place to start.
So if you don't know what it is, Cloud App Security is basically a service which is allowing you to monitor all the requests being done on the network from your clients and say that somebody is uploading the Dropbox file, for example. Yeah, and you can take some action on it, you can react with it. Kamil?
Well, maybe in mine is it related to security, not straightly, but I do lately see that there's a big lag in cognitive services. And for example, my last client actually, when we were discussing this stuff, was asking about the GDPR and RODO in Polish. So
we are not allowed to talk about GDPR.
Well,
I forbid it.
You can't. So just saying, when we were discussing the idea, there was a question like, can we utilize a fully automated thing to use text discovery and do it over the pictures and over the documents, cognitive services, and you can even use the free plan, which is like costing nothing. And if you will use a Microsoft Flow with it to use the OCR for text and pictures to discover things in it, then you have a simple summary like those documents are fully compliant with the compliance or not. That's my favorite one.
Okay, that's not exactly security, but well, it counts still.
And the guy is still talking about paid services.
Microsoft is for me.
Yeah, I know. I will say, of course, about functionality. It's an activity log available in Azure, which help you to answer the question, who stopped my virtual machine, who deleted database, who reset the password to application. It's really powerful functionality, which we are able to monitor. We can add the, for example, event grid to look into the production resources for the write actions. Then we will automatically will be notified about something what happened on the production. For example.
Yeah, so you touched an interesting topic because what I am observing as a consultant is that deploying solutions is one thing, but where organizations are lacking is actually operating the solutions later. And actually there is a little understanding of the model, how to monitor the environment, how to gather logs together, and how to use things like OMS, Azure Monitor to get this insight into the logs. So do you see the same, or do you have a different experience here?
Yeah, I can agree with you, of course, because as I said, great, let's migrate to Azure. We have a lot of environments, a lot of subscriptions, and so on. And after that, we don't know what's going on in there. Who changed something? Yeah? Who changed the database size? And now our application work better, but the billings are twice bigger.
I could add something. If I'm going back to my favorite features, we did hear about Defender, but the second one is cloud security. And the foremost question that I'm hearing all the time is, like, I do have a lot of logs entries, and if you will go to the details about the log entry, you do have a download JSON option. And there's a question like, where's the JSON, and how I can download them automatically? Like,
Call JSON.
Yeah, call JSON. That's the first answer. But the secondly, I'm simply going to OMS saying, hey guys, finally you are getting all the logs for almost everything, like literally everything. And right now we have a thing like a tool which can visualize them. So try to simply see what's happening and assign actions to it. That's easy to do.
That's OMS.
Well, yeah.
Okay, I think that our panel time is over, so round of applause to the guys here. And please harass them on the Twitter, and they can answer more questions. Thank you for the panel here.